So we thought that we would get started just a little bit early, just to make sure that you can hear us, that you can see us, and that you know that we're here doing our jobs. So we're very excited for Flight 9. We've been waiting for a while for this flight. Hard to believe that we haven't been back out here since March.
Yeah, they've had a lot of work that to get the ship ready. Some stuff with the booster, some changes, different objectives for this flight, and we were going to hear from Elon earlier, but he's kind of postponed that. So maybe we'll get some more details from him after the flight.
Yeah, and so there was supposed to be a talk from Elon around noon today, and he posted, about 5-10 minutes after that scheduled time that he's going to be talking after the launch. So, Everyday Astronaut, shout out to Tim Dodd, Everyday Astronaut was able to interview him ahead of this flight, which is pretty awesome. So there are some great views of Star Factory from that interview. But hopefully we'll be able to hear from Elon, and not just about today's flight, but also the plans moving forward.
Right. Well, Tim's interview was good because it kind of gave us the mindset of what Elon has for this flight. Elon's really focused on the heat shields and the tiles and the work that they need to do to be able to survive that reentry. And I think that is understandable because that's really part of the missions, the last two, that we haven't had a chance to get any data on. So that is definitely important. Of course, we need to get there first.
Yeah.
That means it needs to stay in one
Please
piece.
don't explode. Please don't run, explode, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And then, they have a lot of stuff. The Starling simulators, for example, I hope that they're able to do it today, and I hope that we get a view of it.
I do too. You know me, I'm a drone guy, and I would love to see some cameras on those simulators flying away and giving us kind of that, third party view of what the Starship looks like in near orbit.
And let me just bring the computer closer to us so that we can say hello to everyone watching. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so weird, even though this is, a different flight attempt. I feel like this is our third time doing this live stream because we've talked about a lot of the same points, which still remain, same objectives.
Yep, this is still a V2 ship, so they have not successfully flown it all the way through. So the generally the same mission, the same profile, the same things that we've been talking about the last two flights are up on for this one. But as mentioned, they are doing they have done a lot of work to try to address the issues on flight 7 and 8. 7 was the harmonics issue. 8, they said that they think that they got that fixed, but there was another issue that had to do with the engine.
Right.
They've done a lot of work up at McGregor to try to do the testing.
Right?
Right. A lot of work on to try to make sure that the engines are good. And they've done multiple static fires here. Some of them successful, some of them they had to go back and do a little bit of work.
Not so nominal.
Right. So I guess I don't know, what is your feeling about this flight based on
Well, number one, I wanted to point out two things about that. It is a little bit different considering that they are going to refly a booster for the first time. That was not for Flight 7 or Flight 8. It's actually the booster from Flight 7 that we are going, which has been successfully caught, that we're going to see fly again.
Well, and I don't know if it's reluctance or you're pointing out is valid because we've never reflown a booster before. And this is a critical flight, so we're putting a kind of an unknown in the sense that we're flying a booster again we have never done before.
But we're not catching it.
We're not.
We're not catching it.
And the reason why is it's not that they don't think that they can catch it. I think there's several reasons. One is they want to do some different profiles. They want to try a different angle of attack and try to see if they can slow it down with aerodynamic drag more than just use the engines to save some fuel. They want to test engine out capability. And quite frankly, it's an older booster now, so they're getting ready to move on to the next version. So why not get the testing in and then ensure that it goes into the Gulf and is never to be seen again? And they're going to be doing a different profile with that too. They are going to try to simulate as if they're going to come down and do a landing. I'm kind of curious to see if either one or both of the towers mimic the catch while that's happening. But at about 200 meters, which is about 650 feet or so, they're going to shut the engines off and let it hard land. And the reason why is, if you remember Booster 13, when it did the offshore divert, it landed okay-ish. It did blow up a little bit, but the oxygen tank stayed intact, and it was floating for a long time. And they ended up having to take interesting measures to make sure it's safe.
So for us here in person, is this going to be visually spectacular?
Well, it could be. It'll be. It's supposed to land about 30 kilometers off into the Gulf from where we are standing. That's about the same place as Booster 13 was, and we got a really good view of that fireball. So there's a very good chance that we will see it from here. Now, of course, that assumes that it's able to do the flight all the way up to MECO, do the boost back, and then do those tests and come back. And we're assuming that that's the case, but it is a reflown booster, so we'll see how that goes.
And I just wanted to point out, we already have some super chats coming in. So thank you to El Hungaro for the super sticker. I see you often on the channel, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, David, as well. Go, 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 Ellie and Joe. We're really hoping that third time is a charm today. It looks like it's freezing a little bit there. And thank you, Jonathan, thank you for the stream.
Yes.
So thank you for watching. And yeah, it's a very exciting day. Interestingly enough as well, this is the first time that you and I have actually driven here the day of the launch,
Right.
which feels a little bit sketchy, but you know,
Yeah.
we're here, we're set up. The other thing that I wanted to point out before we go into our predictions and feelings of today is that in that press release from SpaceX, they say that the problems on 7 and 8 were different, which is not what people
Right.
speculated for quite a while behind the scenes. So I think that that was really, you know, interesting to kind of have revealed.
Right. Well, I know that there's been a lot of people talking about that because, you know, it was the same or almost the same point in flight,
Very
about the
similar.
same time, same result. You know, I know a lot of people have different opinions on it. I think part of the thing is when they put a press release out like that, they have to kind of strip out a lot of detail and put just sort of basics on there, and you lose a lot of context. You know, it is not out of the realm of possibility that the work that they did for Flight 7 inadvertently created another issue that they found on Flight 8, and then they've been doing the work now to resolve both of those.
Oh my God.
So hopefully they got those fixed, but they could introduce something else, which is why there's a lot of people wondering what's going to happen with this flight.
Yeah.
Kind of going to your question about what is our prediction.
Well, I think you might have a little bit better prediction than me. You're very into the technical side of it. You understand this stuff honestly better than me. So what is your prediction?
Well, you know, as we talked before when we were talking about some of the harmonics, is rockets are difficult because as you fix something, you may introduce another issue, and that's what we may have seen. And also, at any given time, there's thousands of things could go wrong. You know, we haven't seen what version 2 of the ship can do.
Well, we have a little
Well,
bit.
kind of, yeah, but we need to see a lot more. And, you know, in Tim's interview with Elon, he's really focused on the heat shield part of it, which I think is important. But as far as getting up to SECO second engine cutoff, which is basically the end of the trajectory with the engines lit up for the Starship. That happens at about 8 minutes and 56 seconds. That's about a minute past what we saw before. I really do hope that with all the work that they've done, looking at the harmonic issues, looking at what's going on with the engines, kind of basically bolting down or retorquing all of the connections, I'm hopeful that they've got it fixed. I'm going to give it maybe a 65% chance that it's going to make it all the way through SECO. And then once that happens, then we're in uncharted territory because we got to find out is the redesign of the aerodynamics of the V2, which we have not really seen with the new grid pin on the front of the nose and the relocation on that. Does it work as it's planned? Does it give the aerodynamic control that they're hoping for? And then, of course, there's that heat shield issue.
Yeah.
And they're running a lot of experiments with it. Again, they have some of the heat tiles strategically removed to see what happens in heating sections. They have some of those metallic tiles and different kinds of tiles. One of them is actively cooled tiles. So they're testing all of that. So, you know, and they've also put some ablative coating along the sides. If you remember, I think it was ship 33, the last one that did the reentry, they had removed tiles along the sides,
Yeah.
and it kind of warped a lot. Well, on this one, they put some ablative material in that section. So I think they want to see how that reacts and does that prevent some of that warpage. The reason why they did all that in the first place is that if they're going to do the ship catch, the chopstick arms have to slide along that part. And if you have tiles, that's not going to work out. So they need to come up with a different solution, and that's one of the things that they're testing with this ship.
Which I will say, as we mentioned earlier, there is no catch today, which surprised some people. I was driving down here at a supercharger, and a gentleman that I ran into, who I guess is from Maui, he just moved to Texas.
Okay.
He was like, "Oh, I'm bringing the whole family. I'm so excited, to see that catch." And I'm like, "Oh, there is no catch for this one." But if you've never seen a Starship launch, it's highly worth going. However, I know a lot of people are also curious, like how soon until we have the double catch. And so, what do you think?
Well, I think we may, for the same reasons of what they're doing with booster 14 today, we may not see a catch of a booster for a little while because they may take the opportunity to fly out the rest of the V2 boosters. I think they're calling them V2 boosters now, which would be 14, 15, 16, 17. They're all built. Pretty much all of them, I think, except maybe booster 17 has had the cryo testing done. But they represent the past now. So they may just do a bunch of experiments and then expend them and then get ready for 18, which is a step change of beyond. And even in Tim Dodd's interview today, if you're really paying attention, we got a chance to see the top kind of the new design of the hot staging ring for the booster in that. And so it's very different than what we saw before.
Yeah.
By the way, that reminds me something about today with the booster 14 that is different, and it's something that they're testing. They have found that over the last several flights, when they do the hot staging, the booster is actually departed in a random direction. And that's because differential thrust on the top of the booster has sent it moving one way or the other. To try to arrest that and make it more predictable, is they blocked off a couple of portions of that hot staging ring. The idea is that that will force it to be pushed in a particular direction. And if they can control that, they don't have to use as much fuel to redirect wherever it's going because it won't be randomized. So the new hot staging ring that we saw in Tim Dodd's video looks very different, but it probably incorporates some of this what they're going to learn today.
Yeah, I have to watch the full video. It's only about 11 minutes long, but it's great that we were able to hear something from Elon for the launch, although not the talk. So
I think he did kind of give us a little bit of a hint of what he's thinking about for the big talk, because he did talk about Mars and what it means to go there and be sustainable. So I know that's top of mind for him. And I think we're going to hear a lot more detail of that later and after the flight. Hopefully it will be a jubilant ceremony and presentation because everything went so well with this flight.
I mean, I'm going to say I'm an optimist. I have a good feeling about it. And, it seems like they've taken a lot of time to rework this and they seem fairly confident. However, I should take a moment to thank more super chatters. Thank you to Curtis for hanging with us and watching. How close are we? We're about, 40 minutes?
We're 37 minutes away.
37 minutes away.
SpaceX speed may be coming up, so we might be able to tap into that and give you some views. As far as we know,
check out this amazingly generous super chat. Truth Tom, Dream Team. Thanks,
awesome.
Elliot.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And thank you for once again joining me live because I couldn't do without you.
Well, I love it because this is my thing, and I love talking about this.
Yeah, no, it's very nice to be back here. And so thank you, Truth Tom, for watching. I really do appreciate that. And it's kind of crazy. We're getting pretty close.
We are again, and like I said, I haven't checked to see if there's anything from SpaceX yet. I have not heard anything as far as changes. The last flight, I mean, it had the scrub the first time. On the second one, they ended up delaying the launch a little bit, and we would have already known by now. And I have not heard that yet. So
you said a bad word.
I know I'm not supposed to say that.
I'm going to just make sure that I share this. So we'll have SpaceX's feed of the actual launch because, as you can see, lighting's a little rough here, and I'm just using an iPhone. But this is so that you can hear us and see our reactions, and so that we can have a little bit of a pre-launch coverage with you here. So let me just make sure that I have.
Okay. Looks like SpaceX feed is starting up, which that's a great sign because they're planning on doing that about for the actual launch time, which will be right on time with a 6:30 departure. Now, there's been some question about what is the window? Is it 2 hours? Is it 1 hour long? Some of the NOTAMs suggested it was 2 hours, but I heard earlier today it's probably just an hour. And that may be good because if it's a 2 hour slip, that would actually give us a chance to see a night launch, potentially. And I don't think that they want to do that.
That would be awesome.
It would be. Can you imagine 1,000-foot,
Oh,
purple flame going up?
I
that way?
really can't wait for a night launch,
Yeah.
so I would not be opposed to that, but I'm
Yeah,
also just hoping it's successful.
Yeah, I think there, besides, surviving the launch and getting the ship to its near orbit, one of the things they want to do is land in the Indian Ocean controlled in the daytime so they can get really good views of that. And they want to see, as we were talking earlier about like the size of the ship, how did that ablative material do? Compared that to Ship 33, and did it make it survive better? What's the condition of it? And they also have assets that are deployed out into the Indian Ocean near where they are planning on landing. So we should get good views of them. But they also are hoping if they can get a soft landing and it will survive without, having an explosive event when it hits the water, they would like to recover the ship. And some of that is because you just can't beat having the actual hardware to look at. Some of it is because there's some tests that they want to do that may be difficult to know for sure. For example, the catch pins, which they have on the ship, the earlier ships, they were kind of put on as they were non-structural. They wanted to test the heat shield.
Right.
These are now actually structural. So these are the ones that they intend to actually catch the ship with. They're designed to be caught with the second tower, but they have to have heat shields on them, and they need to be able to survive the re-entry, and they need to be able to know how that worked. And being able to recover the ship and seeing it would be very helpful.
For sure, for sure. Wow, so SpaceX has started their stream, and there's a live look at full staff right now.
That is cool. Now, if you remember on several of the previous live streams that we've done, is SpaceX speed tends to be about 15 seconds behind what we are seeing. So we will be able to see stuff and probably let you know just before we'll see it on the SpaceX feed. And right now, what we see is a large plume of the white vapors all over that OLM area, kind of shielding the lower part of the rocket and the mount from where we are pointed at. But the views from SpaceX are drones, which of course drones always give you the best view to anybody.
Through that. See, so we have people asking, when are we flying? Well, you can see the countdown clock right there. Just a little over 32 minutes away.
Yeah, so that puts it still at 6:30 local time here in Central Texas. That's 7:30 Eastern time.
Now, didn't they have like 30-minute window for the last couple launches?
No, I think the last one
Was it an hour?
about an hour, but then they changed the time pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like by this time, they would have already had said, "Okay, we're going to slip it a little bit," so
Right.
it made it look like it
I
was
see.
shorter.
I see.
But yeah, so I think the hour gives us them a lot of flexibility. They still have the option at about that 40-second mark to
Yeah.
if they need to. It's not actually built into the timeline anymore, but I know that it is still there. So when we get to 40 seconds, we're always going to be waiting to see what's going to happen.
Well, and let us know if you are watching how the sound is. It is a little bit windy out here. Not too bad, but it's kind of always windy down here. Something to remember if you ever come down here
Yeah.
and you have hair. It is very windy down here, so hopefully you guys can hear us well. But it's a really beautiful day.
It is. This is. It's actually not really that windy compared to what we've seen before. The temperatures are nice. Not oppressively humid. Something called the temperature dew point spread is working in our favor, which means that as those get closer together, the chances of having fog and clouds are get higher. And right now, the spread's pretty far away, so we have a little bit of haze, but otherwise, the viewing is great. And I would imagine that people who are doing really high resolutions photos and video are going to be really thrilled with this launch.
I wanted to say, Elon has talked about he wants to focus more on Starship lately and kind of get back into something other than Doge, and so hopefully that will help things.
Yeah, well, we talked about the importance of this mission from the standpoint of Starship and getting it through SECO and doing all the objectives, learning about the heat tile, and all that is really important. But we're now starting to add more, attention onto the Starship program. SpaceX itself has a pretty ambitious goal to try to get at least some Starships to Mars, leaving for Mars at the end of next year. And there is a lot of big, huge milestones that have to be hit between now and then. In addition to that, many of you know, Jared Isaacman is probably going to be confirmed hopefully in the next couple of weeks as the new NASA administrator. And there's a lot of talk about reprioritization of and refocusing of the NASA mission, probably going more commercial and probably relying more and more on things like the Starship. So the fact that they need to start showing that they can get through this development stage, get to more advanced hardware, start being able to develop those things they need, whether it's for the Artemis program or the Mars, they have to have on-orbit refilling, they have to have depots, they have to have the logistics base and the cadence to be able to do that. All of that has to be developed for both programs over the next 14 months or so, which is crazy.
They need to get today's flight right.
Yes.
I will say, as we're just bantering here, it was interesting in Everyday Astronauts interview today, because last year when I interviewed Elon in June, I tried to ask him about Artemis. I actually didn't include this in my interview, but immediately he said no comment as soon as he heard the word Artemis. So today, much different story with Tim. And so let's talk about that. That's very interesting to me.
Well, you asked him that June of 2024.
Correct.
And if you remember, that was
June 6th, to be exact.
That was kind of as the ramping up of the presidential election was coming up. At that time, Elon hadn't picked sides, if you will. He was trying to stay relatively neutral. I know that there was a lot of question. We see a lot of the IG reports on NASA about the Artemis program and various parts of it. I know that he was really focused on, what SpaceX doing. And I think there was just a lot of unknowns of what was going to be the direction of NASA at that time.
Right.
Fast forward, we've had an election. We know the outcome of that. We know who Elon started to support. We know that he's had a lot of influence within the administration, within NASA. Jared Isaacman, who last June was probably the farthest from our minds that would be maybe running at NASA. I mean, he was gearing up for Polaris Dawn at that time. So with his probable confirmation and then taking the reins and refocusing NASA, so much has changed now. I feel like Elon now feels like he can speak out quite a bit because he's pulling the strings.
You heard the whole interview today, but what was different? What did he say? He said Artemis is still thinking too small scale?
Yeah, I think, and I think this is not just an Elon criticism. I share it. I know a lot of other people share it as well, is that we tend to want to recreate the Apollo mission. And as great as the Apollo mission was, it was effectively, let's just get to the moon, let's plant the flag, let's take some photos, prove that we can do it. And then we ended the program. We didn't build on it. He's trying to say we need to think bigger. And bigger means having bases, having a permanent presence. And that's one of the criticisms against the current Artemis and the SLS and the program that they have, is that we're talking maybe a launch every year or two for a couple of weeks. And that really isn't going back to stay. So he wants to think much bigger than that. So we'd have a lot more people going, a lot more, back and forth between the moon and Earth orbit. That would mean that we'd have to have that on-orbit refilling and tanker ships. And then the same thing would leapfrog us over to Mars and then do the same thing. So I think he is trying to influence that decision-making and the thinking for the Artemis program to be much, much bigger and much more bold than what we ever did back in the 60s.
But speaking of bold, thank you to Ricker for the super chat. In the back of my mind, Elon is a bold risk taker. Do you want to make a bet that, yes, there will be a catch today, would speak volumes about reusability?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to catch it for specific reasons. They're trying different things, and so they're not trying to go for a successful catch. Like, they're actually being a little bit riskier with this booster.
Well, yeah, and we've also
Maybe not risky, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, we've seen this before with other hardware with SpaceX, where like in the early days, so they were doing 8, 9, 10, and then 11, and then they skipped to 15. They were willing to skip over hardware that was already built because they had already felt that they had worked beyond that, and that was now old, obsolete hardware. And I would say that in many ways, the current version of the booster, for example, is old. And they've got 4 of them that are flight ready, sitting over at the the rocket garden and in the mega base, and they're just basically taking up space.
Yeah.
And they don't have the gigabase.
is crazy. Just like what other rocket companies have like a surplus of ships and boosters?
Right.
This is nuts.
Well, I think that boosters 17 and 18, I mean 16 and 17 are kind of like the backup plan in case 14 and 15 on the reflight doesn't work out or they need to do something more. But if this flight goes really well and then the next flight goes really well, I can see them skipping right over. I mean, they've already got part of booster 18 built. It's in Mega Bay 1. They've already got the test tank out at Massey's doing the testing to validate its structural integrity. So it would not be surprising, and SpaceX has that history of just leapfrogging over to the next version.
100%. It's so crazy. Even just the landscape down at Starbase. I haven't been back down. Well, neither have you.
Right.
You drove down today, but
Exactly.
stuff has changed a lot since March.
It is.
It's always changing.
It's hard to see from the camera view,
Very
but
hard.
I'm looking across the channel, and there's no high bay anymore. That you know, when we were here before, I actually made a concerted effort of getting some pictures of the high bay, saying the skyline's going to be different. And sure enough, we're already back here a couple months later, and it's completely gone.
Wow.
And that's because they're going to be building a gigabay there, very similar to what is going to be built out at Florida. And you know, they kind of need. We were talking about space and getting rid of the old hardware because they're space constrained. That gigabay is going to allow them to start building lots of ships, lots of boosters, and all the latest designs. So that is in the process of being built right now. And you know, the Tower 2 is coming along. They've been doing chopstick testing. They've got the flame trench installed. They just put the new orbital launch mount. That huge structure is in place, and they're doing, you know, more work to get it all done. I'd still say it's probably 3 or 4 months before it's done, but it's getting close. And out at Kennedy Space Center, they're building an exact copy of that. It's about 6 months behind where this one is.
Wow.
But they want to start launching Starships next year, end of this year, they said, but it's probably going to be next year out of Florida. And when I was there just recently, I saw they were fixing all the roads right next to where the crawler tracks are. They're widening and strengthening all the roads for Starship. So all of that infrastructure is being built. The new Hangar X, I guess X2, whatever, the Gigabay, the pathways, they're building the tower and the flame trench. So they are moving quickly to be able to launch out of Florida even.
Wonder, do you think we should bring it a little closer to us, or do you think it's fine?
I don't know. What is the group?
I don't know. I think it's fine. I don't know. It's rough lighting. Maybe we need to bring a big light next
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here.
But
Ross said that Elon is on console at Starbase Mission Control. So
okay.
she's
I think
probably not stressful or anything.
SpaceX just posted something. I think it was good. I'm gonna see what it was.
And B. Nordland, thank you for the super chat. Hi, Ellie and Joe. Where are you located? It does not look like Margaritaville. It is not Margaritaville. For no reason other than this is just a nice change of scenery. And so we are in Port Isabel on a deck.
Yes,
We were
and
here in March. So this is our second time streaming from here, but the service seems to be a little bit better. Hopefully you guys can be the judge of that.
and I would just like to say, viewers of you and mine, Joseph Wolfgram, this is his house, and he has opened it up for us.
Thank you.
Very kind, and you know, he specifically found this lot and built it for this to be able to see the launches. So perfect. But we are getting close to when the engine chill will begin.
It's pretty nuts.
So we're still moving along. That happens at 19 minutes and 40 seconds. So we are 22 minutes. So we have about, I don't know, 3 minutes, and then we should start seeing engine chill as long as we are continuing to go.
So crazy.
And so, you know, this is kind of funny, but Dan, Hoth, whatever, I can't get his last name right, but Dan is one of the SpaceX guys that's doing the commentary today. And when I saw him at the last launch, he had grown his beard out. It was looking kind of like Grizzly Bear Adams for the old people who remember what that looked like. And I kind of joked about it, and it looks like he's trimmed it. So maybe that's a good sign.
Yeah. All these superstitions.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
That's why I'm thinking that there's going to be something to us driving the day of the launch. There's going to be something associated with it. We don't know yet, but we've never done it this way.
No, usually,
However, when we were both out of town in Paris and California, they caught the booster for the first time.
Right.
So
right.
maybe we need to go really far away. We still live stream that. And I wanted to shout out Blakely, he has been following me since like the Better Than Nothing beta days.
Oh, okay.
3,000 subs. So thank you so much for coming along for the ride. And, you know, to everyone who supported Ellie in Space, it's kind of crazy to see what the channel has become.
Well, it's you know, important to point out is you got your channel start with Starlink, and we're using Starlink at least for part of what we're doing today.
Out here.
And hopefully all of the views that we're going to be getting today through reentry is all because of Starlink,
Yep.
which is incredible.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, we got more than one Starlink just in this group. So hopefully it looks like the service is pretty good on the street.
I hope so. Does any of the viewers have any questions that we can answer while we're getting towards the end here of the countdown?
Yeah. So you guys have any questions for us, and maybe let us know where you're watching from. It's always interesting to see how many people around the world. You maybe are staying up late, maybe it's the middle of the night for you, but can't miss a launch.
No, especially one of this importance. And you know, I don't want to overemphasize it like, you know, this is the most important launch in the history of the world, but for SpaceX it is a really important mission. And for the people that have been building and working on Starship, particularly those that are on the structures and the engines and the plumbing, I really do hope for a good result for them today. I know that it's been a lot of stress. I know that they've been working really hard. This is not an easy problem. But I do hope that all of the work that they put in results in a good flight today. I think that they really deserve it, and I think it would be really great if we dovetail into a post-flight discussion about Mars and what SpaceX wants to do on a high note. So
I think Elon was in DC during the last launch.
He might have been, yeah.
Right?
With Mars, yeah, he might have been.
And so a couple weeks ago, some employees were like, dude, Elon, we need you down here. So hopefully it helps that he's here today.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because there's some people talking about, the morale at SpaceX or Starbase, all that. I actually see that as kind of a positive that there's people that are worried about what's going on. It means that they're invested in it. They really care a lot about it. I saw that in the military. When there's a lot of people that have strong emotions about something, it's because they really care about what the mission is. And I think that's what it is. And they all want this to succeed so bad, and they want to figure out, what is the problem? How are we going to solve it? How are we going to move forward? And that can manifest in that way. So. And that's why I think that if they get a great launch here, it'll just be great not only for SpaceX but also for all the employees.
Well, here's a question from Blakely. SpaceX said on their website that the booster will be making a hard splashdown.
Yes.
Do you believe it may explode on impact?
Yes, definitely. I think it's going to be quite energetic.
Ooh, that's kind of nice because we don't get for us, for our entertainment, because we don't get a catch. A lot of people opted out of this one because there's no catch, but at least we'll get.
Right. Well, part of the reason we mentioned before, this is a planned water landing, and they're doing a bunch of tests. But based on what happened to Booster 13 a couple of flights ago, where it offshore diverted and it went into the water, it did have an explosion, but it wasn't enough to completely make it not floatable. So a lot of it floated for a long time, and they had to deal with that. They want to make sure that does not happen with this booster. So at about 200 meters, 650 feet or so in the air, that's when they will cut the engines off and let it fall that entire distance. So when it hits the water, it's going to have massive structural failure, and I expect to see a pretty good boom.
It's kind of exciting. I mean, that's what they're like, oh, there's no catch, so lame. And it's like, they're not doing this for our entertainment. However, it is very entertaining. So,
well, in this case, they're planning for a boom on purpose.
Yeah.
On the booster.
Which
not the ship.
But we won't have the sonic boom of reentry.
No, I think it'll be too far away. We might hear a delayed, muffled boom. I think when we heard Booster 13, we did hear something. We were up on Margaritaville. It caught a little bit of attention, but it was very muted. It won't be anywhere near like a sonic boom.
Yeah.
In fact, they didn't even put the sonic boom warnings out this time because, it's just not going to happen.
Which, by the way, interesting. I meant to bring this up. So Starship will, in not too distant of a future, be launching from Florida, and then Falcon Heavy is also coming to the West Coast, Vandenberg, which is very exciting.
Yes, yeah.
So if you're on the West Coast and you haven't seen a Falcon Heavy launch, although we'll see if you can see it because it's always foggy there, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got some family down in Southern California. Actually, ironically, where I was for the
Yeah.
first catch.
Yep.
They see them launching all the time. They can see it really well.
Isn't it crazy that we're almost in the double digits of Starship?
I know. This is the last single digit one.
Yeah. Which there was a post that I shared on my profile earlier, which got a lot of attention. Let's see. ABC News shared today, after 8 previous failed missions, SpaceX has scheduled the unmanned 9th test flight of Starship, which people were
See, this is why
very upset about.
This is why you watch Ellie.
Yeah.
To get what is really going on and what's important. And that's why, we talked a lot about this booster is planned to come back and land in the water and there will be an explosion, because that's what all the people will focus on. They don't realize what are the mission objectives and what did they get out of that. And the fact that it was actually planned, and that's what they wanted.
But also, SpaceX has caught the booster 3 times now. So this idea that all the flights have been unsuccessful is...
Well, that's just why, you gotta, filter out where you get the news from and trust somebody like Ellie that's going to give you the real story.
No, we have to block them and slander their names. No, I'm kidding.
All right, so the next big milestone is at 3 minutes and 20 seconds when the ship propellant mode will be complete. And, we are 14 minutes away. So we have about 11 more minutes of loading if everything continues. If any of you on the chat sees anything on the live stream that we may not see as we're talking, point it out.
We're hearing, just want to say how clear and crisp your transmission is.
Excellent.
Today. All the Starlink you're using certainly has gotten better over time, which is really nice because it can be very frustrating when this is the one thing that is not working. So that is great to hear. Thank you for letting us know.
Speaking of which, they launched another Starlink flight today, Falcon 9. So this is actually the second launch
That's
today.
routine.
I know.
Boring, Joe.
But they keep putting more Starlinks up there, so that makes the service better.
It is so crazy to me. How crazy is that? I interviewed actually a former SpaceX employee recently, which I'm surprised more of you haven't watched that video. Very interesting. But she was saying, wouldn't it be cool if one day, launches were so routine that no one cared? And in some ways, the Falcon 9, it just has died off a lot because they're all the time. Like that couldn't have happened, 10 years ago.
Well, it reminds me a little bit, during and then after World War II, there was plane spotting, and it became almost a sport, especially in Britain or United Kingdom. And there were some times, even late enough that when I was flying, I fly over to Building Hall or wherever, land, and then you go downtown to some of the hobby stores, whatever, and they've got my plane number and my name and the call sign and all that. But that's kind of died away because it's just become so routine. And I think the same thing for the rocket launches. And it will be sort of a good news, bad news thing that it becomes that routine.
I still can't believe that we're almost 10 minutes away. And this is so bizarre. We're so used to having a day or 2 days out at Starbase, kind of walking around, meeting people. It's literally about to happen.
All right. This is the first time I have not seen the full stack. Well, I guess the first catch one, but I normally am out there. I see the full stack or whatever. And so this
me too. You usually get to kiss it goodbye. So I don't know.
Well,
it's pretty nuts.
Right now we're 12 minutes away from seeing it take off.
That is so crazy. So nuts. Oh my gosh! And that's the thing is we won't know for at least 10 minutes until we've gotten past that.
I guess that's a good point. It's just what can we expect, assuming that it lights the engine and it takes off on plan. About a minute or so after that, they're going to be already going supersonic and getting into maximum the dynamic pressure. And that's where we're going to see kind of a veil of vapors coming around the ship and then through the exhaust. It's really quite pretty. About 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm doing this off the top of my head, is when we should see the most engine cutoff and then that hot staging. And shortly after that, the engines of the ship will light and it'll hopefully continue on its path. Up for about the next maybe minute or so, it'll be the boost back and then the hot stage ring coming off, and then it will do its test on the way in for landing. And it should land around 6 minutes and 40 seconds after takeoff, so it's not that long. And then the ship should have its engines going all the way to about 8 minutes and 56 seconds. So not even 9 minutes after launch, it should have second engine cutoff, and it should be in that near orbit. And if that goes well, then just 10 minutes after that, they should be doing the deployment of the satellites. If that goes well, about 20 minutes after that, about 38 minutes or so after launch, they will do that simulated, well, they'll light an engine and try to do kind of a simulated deorbit burn. And after that, around, I don't know, 50 something minutes, it'll already be in reentry, and about 1 hour and 5 minutes, it should be in the Indian Ocean. I mean, it's going to go that quick. Some people may ask, what about the satellites? What happens to them? It's basically they're going to be deployed, and then they will follow along with that route of path and naturally enter into the atmosphere. Because they're lighter mass and they have a lot of surface area, they'll slow down faster than the ship, so they will generally move away, and then they will just expire in the atmosphere.
So I wanted to add that SpaceX nerd Tom says we do miss your beach shots in live, so tomorrow we'll go out there.
Well, that would be cool.
Unless you're not going home.
No,
right?
no.
Okay, then we will bring you some live coverage.
In a sure way of making sure that this launches today, I have a room all the way till Friday.
Awesome. So we are less than 10 minutes away from the 9th flight of Starship, which is nuts.
We're getting very close to the prop load being ending soon, maybe in about 5 more minutes, 6 more minutes. And there we go.
You good?
Where am I gonna be that's not in camera?
Oh, you're good wherever.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty crazy. It's weird. I like drove all day and then
Yeah.
just here.
I left San Antonio at about 4:30 this morning so I could stop at the Tesla Corpus Lithium plant. I flew a drone flight over there, so I'll be releasing that
What time did you leave?
4:30. So it's been like a really long day, and it's going to be even longer because we're going to see, hopefully everything goes, the talk, and then, believe it or not, SpaceX never seems to slow down. I saw earlier that they may be preparing to take, I think it may be Ship 37 out to Madison for cryo testing tonight. So if that all happens, they got a really busy day coming up.
And so, so if things go well today, do you think that we could see orbital on the next flight? We still have our suborbital trajectory.
Yeah, I think that they want to. I think it really just depends on what happens today. Cool. Well, I'm going to set up another camera and get ready
Okay.
for the launch because we're
Great.
just about 7 minutes away or so, and we're definitely getting close.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
nuts.
Let's just see. Pretty decent view.
So nice. I forgot which launch it was where it was just so fogged out.
Oh,
Well, actually, a couple of them.
a couple of them have been that way. But you know, we talked about this before when we were on Margaritaville versus where we're at here. We're at a lower altitude. We're right across the ground here. I think it gives us in a way, a better view than if we were up on Margaritaville because we have more atmosphere to look through and it maybe make it a little bit more foggy or more misty. And
Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting seeing the difference, here versus the roof Margaritaville, which is
right.
fair.
We're about the same distance, within about a half a mile from the actual launch site, but I think being a little bit lower is good.
You like it?
I do.
Yeah, I really wish that we could watch it at some point from Isla Blanca with everyone else. People are always asking me, where should I watch it? And I tell them there because that's where
Right.
most people are, but to stream would be, I don't know, maybe it would work with Starlink. I tried it in the past and it didn't work. So that's why
As we've said, Starlink seems to be getting a little bit better, so maybe
that could be. And also I think once Starship flights are more routine, might as well try it.
right.
It won't be this big. It's like I want it to be at, at least the first 10, which obviously we were here in spirit
Yep.
for flight 5. And
I think we've done pretty good.
we have.
Yeah. But
This is my 14th trip to Starbase once we go tomorrow.
that's
So,
cool. I've kind of lost track. From
Yeah, yeah. They all start to blend together.
But we're less than 6 minutes from hopefully seeing it launch.
And thank you to Rudy for a very generous super sticker. Thank you for supporting and watching. It's really great to have people tune in because there's a lot of great creators out there. So we appreciate that you want to hang out with us.
Yeah, well, I think, we just try to give you a lot of information, maybe some of which you haven't heard or maybe
Yeah.
in a different way. And it's just a good way to cover it. And if you watch several different channels, you can kind of get all that different information
Yeah.
and really get a good idea of what's going on.
It really is interesting the different perspectives on all the channels and sort of, just the different twists on Starship News. But I like my stuff too. No, there's some great channels.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you so much.
we are getting really close.
I know.
Are there any questions right now?
Just saying. Let's see. Any questions?
Well, I don't know.
Oh yeah, people are asking me if I have sonic boom pain fears. Well,
There won't be a catch, so.
there won't be a catch, but also I think I'll be fine. I talked very in depth to an orthopedic surgeon about it, and I think that first time could have been a fluke. I mean, I didn't notice it last time, although I was bracing for it, but I don't know if there was anything having to do with being on the roof. So
I don't know. The first time you had never experienced it too,
Yeah.
so you didn't know what to expect, and it's hard to know. But it was pretty cool that you talked to somebody in the field.
Oh,
and
yeah.
got some
I was-
information from it.
begging him for free healthcare. He's a Canadian orthopedic surgeon, so literally I was like, I feel like a desperate American trying to ask you some questions. It worked out.
We are very close to seeing the prop load completed, and what we should see, both with our eyes looking over at the tower and the orbital launch site, and what you can see probably a few seconds after what we can see here on the live stream, is you should start seeing that the venting on the tower and the OLM will come back up again, because that means there's no longer cryo going into the ship and the booster, and now they have to boil off or bleed off all that extra stuff within all those pipes so that they don't have anything flammable, whatever, in there when they actually light the engines. So if you see a lot of clouds all of a sudden, that's what's going on. I think we're starting to see some of that right now, because we're definitely within that point in time.
Make sure, so once we go, can you make sure that I'm standing in a place that you can see the actual, would this be okay?
I don't know.
Because it's very hard to make it out.
Yeah.
The distance there. I think if I stand here, what do you think, Joseph?
I think it's gonna show up. Yeah, you're good there.
Okay.
You want me to stand on the other side?
Yeah, wherever you want. I just
Okay.
want to be posted up because people last time were like, "You're blocking it." And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that's why I'm sharing SpaceX.
I think you're good. I think you're fine there. It's hard to see where it is, but
Yeah.
it's right in between.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we'll see. It's just with the camera lens.
Yeah.
You got us
I mean,
big, and then
Listen, like I've told people, they're like, "Oh, it's mixed reviews." People are like, "You should just enjoy the launch and like don't worry about the stream." And then other people are like, "You're not framing it right, and your camera sucks." And it's like,
oh well.
that's why I'm sharing. So anyway, we're doing our best, but at least you can hear us.
So we are, prop loading is complete, and it's fully loaded with more than 4,900 metric tons of cryogenics. So now they're just kind of clearing out the lines, and we should see that the clouds for a moment, and then they should start dissipating, and we are getting very close to that countdown.
Big deal.
So far, knock on wood, keep your fingers crossed, it's gone pretty smoothly. So I probably just jinxed this, but it's going. I don't know, at least to this point, if SpaceX could be any happier with how things are going.
I just don't know if most people understand the importance. I think the true fans do,
Right.
but this is like,
This is really
Solar.
important. The last two flights did not end the way that they wanted. They didn't get the data that they needed. And a lot of that data is necessary to go on to bigger and better things and some of the plans that they want to do.
saying hold at 40.
So, okay,
Hold at 40 seconds.
that would be,
A
that's
plan.
fine. They can do that for, an extended period of time, and they're probably doing it just to check any last minute thing and make sure that they're ready to go. So,
Yeah.
so I don't think that that's, necessarily a bad thing at this point in time. And the only thing is from us looking, we can't really see if they resumed the count until they show it on their webcast. And if that's the case, then
That's why I've been looking at, everyone's like filling us in on the chat, which is
Okay.
very great.
I appreciate that.
Updating us. But wow, this is so bizarre. Every time I'm like, wow, I can't believe like It's actually going.
Well, we talked about the importance of this mission, so this may be one of those indications. They just want to check every single thing and make sure that igniters look good, sensors look good, pressures look good, valves look good. Yep, and SpaceX says the teams are using this time for final checks, so I think exactly what we were just talking about.
Ellie, move to your right, looking at this. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you're right, would have been that way, so just maybe, I don't know, which way you want her to go?
I don't know. See, this is why I don't know.
If you move towards Joe, you'll be blocking it.
If I move, yeah.
Yeah.
So just stay here.
You go a little bit,
It should be right here.
Okay, so I'm good here. Just
okay,
stay put. Don't move.
and I'm behind the SpaceX feed.
Yes.
But all right, yeah, cool. This is an option. We did talk about it before. 40-second is a point where they can hold, and they have done this before. Nice view here where they're doing some more of the chill down of the Raptors on the booster.
It's actually fairly, people are talking about, is it windy?
Not
Not
really.
that bad.
It's-
Like,
it's-
we've been through way worse.
Yeah, no, it's actually from the standpoint of
Good day
wind.
to launch.
Yes.
It's a good day
Just about perfect.
weather-wise. No runaway balloons.
Now, actually, for those that remember, on the last
The
flight,
aerostat.
yeah, the big, like the blimp kind of thing that they have here on that flight where they ended up not flying, we had the big roll cloud come through and it dislodged it and it went all the way to Oklahoma.
I cannot believe that. That is so crazy. Oh my gosh. Well, it's definitely not that kind of day. So
Yeah. So,
they're saying your head is blocking Starship.
Oh.
No, it's not. That's not Starship, bro.
Starship is right out over here,
They-
right about
What
here.
that's just a,
Yeah, there's actually a drilling rig out there. They're dredging the channel to
yeah.
make it deeper.
Launches go. Hold ended,
Okay.
you guys. Oh my gosh.
All right. So we're at the countdown. What's the countdown? And
Another hold. Hold again.
hold again. Okay.
Okie dokie. Oh, please.
This is just the funny thing about being live versus watching it on streaming is we're seeing things before everybody else sees it. But we can't hear what they're saying. So.
No.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I still think that, with the amount of work that they've done, the amount of testing, that they really want to make sure that everything really is good to go.
Oh, we got another super chat. Thank you, Graham, we're cutting down to it, but thank you for the super chats. Thanks for watching our live stream, and we're maybe close.
Well, we're 40 seconds away.
Yeah.
Still. But, they have a window that's an hour long, so they have plenty of time. So
Really.
hopefully they don't need to use the whole thing, but. The later we go.
Let's see, ground system issue.
Oh, really?
Potential.
Okay. Well,
So you guys are helping be our eyes and ears, so we're reading your comments.
are they posting that on X or is it just on
Could be
their
here.
live
Who
stream?
knows?
Okay. Now we're waiting on UT0 is what they say, so we shall see. The good thing is that the prop loading was completed. So I think they may do some replenishment so that may be the issue, but we'll see. Or maybe there's some other, valves or whatever. It always comes down to valves. Spaceflight and valve.
Maxwell says, make it so. Correct. Please. Please.
There, go for it.
Joe, let us know if you know anything.
People are saying to move this. Well, people are saying they can't see you, but I can't move that thingy
Yeah.
if you want
If
to.
it lights, it'll show up on the screen.
Yeah. Well, now they can't see Joe, so they're.
Oh, okay.
I guess for now you
How
can
about
stand
that?
here. For now you can stand here.
All right. So if we hear that it's
Once it goes,
Back
I'll
on.
I'll push you off the depth
Okay,
into
thanks.
the water.
Yeah,
then-
we're real close
and
to
then
the
I'll
water here,
really get live
actually.
Just kidding.
Yeah, so, if you guys come out to watch the launch, we talked about a lot of the different places, but over here at Port Isabel, they got some pretty nice areas as well. And we're still about 5 miles away, which is just at the edge of that exclusion zone. And, so it's about as good a view as you can get, other than there are some people that go out on boats. You can see possibly behind us, maybe not, but all on the water out here. There's a lot of boats with people that are paying to be on the boats to watch the launch.
Oh
So,
my God, dude, this is stressful.
well, this is part
Can we
of.
be in mission control so we know exactly what's going
Yeah.
on?
Well, I know that they are talking a lot. Can we go? Can we not? What are we seeing? It's 5 psi above the limit, or is it a really important limit? So, but it is important to point out that this is a capability that Falcon 9 does not have. So once they get the propellant in and they get this close to launch, it's either they launch or they don't.
Right.
Whereas Starship has this added capability, which gives it a lot more flexibility, especially if you're going to be in that reusability thing.
Yeah.
You get to a certain point, hold it, fix whatever, and then keep
Oh
going.
no,
Don't know what.
look at those words.
Uh-oh.
Like the sound of that, Joe.
Is that true?
I don't know.
I don't want to say it yet until I know it's true.
Yep, hey guys, so possible going.
Oh,
Forward to justice.
okay. Well, we'll see. We're getting word that they may be going.
Or not.
Justin, what are you hearing?
So,
Countdown restarted.
Okay,
30
yeah.
seconds. Yes.
so we've got a way of knowing a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes. So,
Okay, so
30 seconds.
make sure it's
From our point of view, it should be very soon. I see.
There we go.
Ignition.
There you go.
And they split the engines.
We're going.
And it is going. We are airborne.
Go Starship.
Go up. Okay.
That's a 27-story building.
27-story company. Yeah.
Looks like all engines. That was awesome. That's the engine.
Oh my God.
Kilometers per hour. Still all 33 engines.
Look at this. Oh my gosh.
We should be very close to next to or through that point. You guys you need to come here to see a launch.
That was so loud.
Okay, we're still proceeding
Oh
up.
my God.
All right,
That was like
still.
louder than last time.
Yeah, it was quite loud, and it was very abrupt.
Holy crap.
Okay, we're approaching.
So we're gonna see the cloud.
Oh my God.
We're approaching the point where we're going to get close to the most engine cutoff.
Do you know this?
All right.
That's how they get the great But for now, the clock is really.
From our perspective, we can still see the engines are lit. They have not got to the most engine cutoff quite yet.
Oh my God.
What? We're very close now to where we should see the. Okay. Looks like engines are shut down. Hot staging, hopefully. Looks like it's separating. Oh, what are we seeing? 6 engines on the ship. Looks like it's on the boost back. All 13 are boosting back. So far, so good.
Oh, wow.
And boost back is continuing. Again, all 6 engines of the ship are still lit.
33 out of 33 Raptor engines lit.
Okay.
It's
Okay, Super
lit.
Heavy is shutting down the boost back is completing. They have the 3 center engines lit, and those should be coming off very soon.
Coming up on maximum.
Okay, all the engines on the booster are turned off.
Until we get it.
So we should see hot staging ring coming off soon. All 6 engines of the ship, which is what we're really watching, are still lit right now.
Incredible.
It's passing the Kármán line right now.
We can feel the building.
That is good.
Feel the vehicles.
Dude, that was
Okay.
way louder than last time.
All right.
For some reason.
Shutting down those engines on our booster again. This
So
booster is flying.
where are we gonna see that? So I can hopefully zoom in or show people.
All right, well, I'm gonna watch, but it should be coming out. Do you see where the tip of the island is?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that direction, it should be coming down.
Okay.
Now, it's gonna be harder to see because it's gonna be 30 kilometers out versus getting closer to us, but still, we're at 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and all 6 engines of the ship are still lit, so that's a good sign so far.
Is that the ring?
Yeah, I think that's the booster. We can see the booster starting to come back. We can see some kind of
wow.
vapors around the booster. Keep watching as we get closer in. We can see some of the RCSs firing to get it oriented properly. Now, they should be trying to use a higher angle of attack, which is they're trying to increase the drag so they can hopefully be able to reduce the amount of propellant they need for the catch. So that's part of that test. And we can see it is still coming down.
I'm gonna try to show you guys,
The
but
ship
it's
still
gonna
has all
start.
6 engines lit. That's at 5 minutes and 10 seconds. So that's still a very
Okay,
good
so
sign.
I can sort of see it going, but might be a little hard for y'all.
Trying to see where that booster is.
Yeah, it's coming down. It's probably hard for you guys to make out, but it's coming
Hard
down.
to see right now. Okay, so far still all 6 engines of the ship lit, which is a good thing. The booster is looks like it's mostly oriented towards where it needs to be. We're starting to see some of that thermal heating at the bottom of the engine, which we've seen before. Now, I think that they're trying to do this higher angle of attack to minimize that as well. Also, with the
Where'd it
new
go?
design,
Oh, there it is. Oh my God.
with the new design of the ship, the booster, they're going to be having some heat shields underneath that where the engines are. Okay, we're still watching the booster coming back, but also the ship is still all 6 engines lit. That's still a good sign. Yeah, it looked like there was. Looks like the booster may have hit the water.
Yeah, we saw like a little
Okay.
flame and then it kind of disappeared. It's a little.
So now
make
all
out.
eyes are on the ship. That's the big thing. We're at approaching 7 minutes, still 6 engines lit. So we're getting close to that point in time that we saw with the last 2 flights. So this is really important for the ship now.
Ship is phenomenal. First reuse booster. That is right.
Yes. So
Congratulations to SpaceX.
hopefully they got all the data they needed from the test for the booster, and that can inform more of the designs for the future. Okay, now with the ship, this is the point where we really are watching because.
Booster telemetry loss.
Okay, well, that's probably because it hit the water.
Yeah.
But right now, obviously, the most important thing is the ship. Oh, we just heard the booster. So speed of sound is about 8 seconds per mile. If it's 30 kilometers out, that's about 20-ish miles. So
So
that
many jump scares after.
Yeah. There was more of a muffled
Yeah,
kind
that-
of bump.
That
than
was nothing
anything else.
like what you would hear during an actual catch.
Okay, so
But that launch was
Ship 35 is now within that time frame that we saw flights 7 and 8 having issues. Still, so far, all 6 engines appear to be operational. So, yeah.
more booms, more booms.
All right, so continuing on, we are about 40 seconds away from when the ship should nominally shut down the engines. So we are getting close. Watching what's going on in the engine bay. At the present,
Please, please, please.
don't see any flames in the engine compartment, which is a good thing. Okay. Okay, the vacuum raptors have shut down nominally. The 3 sea levels are still continuing to fire. We are about 4 seconds away from when they were planned to shut down.
They must have had those artifacts.
Engines shut down. And 26,493 kilometers per hour. That should be the near orbital speed that they need at 151 kilometers. And they are now venting the, and SpaceX says the ascent berm for the ship is complete. So this is by far the farthest that we've ever gone. So this is awesome. So now we got to see how the ship performs for the next.
Now we're
50
actually
minutes or so.
finally doing some of the things that we've
Exactly.
wanted for so long.
And now the views that we're seeing from SpaceX, we're seeing some venting from the ship. I believe that is normal. Some of that may have to do with some of the I don't know, not fire suppression like they're having a fire, but they have like some gases that they put up in the attic area. So it could be that, or they're just venting excess fuel. We've seen that in the past before. It also looks like there's at least a RCS thruster going, at least in the view that I have. And with the shadow of the grid fin, or at least the grid fin itself moving, we can see that they are repositioning while they are in orbit or near orbit. And the looks like from the display, the ship's attitude is being is adjusting now. It's pretty much level to the horizontal with the Earth.
Wow.
So far, this is really good. I'm not the people in the Turks and Caicos are good.
Yeah, okay.
The ship should now be well into the Atlantic, on its way to the south tip of Africa, and then it will cross over that part, over Madagascar, on its way towards the Indian Ocean. Now, in about 7 minutes, just a little bit more than 7 minutes, they should start doing that Starlink
Wow.
deployment. And so that'll be another first. Well, the first time we see the PEZ dispenser door open, hopefully nominally and not get jammed like we saw before. And hopefully we'll see Starlink dummies, Starlinks coming out soon. And I do hope that they have a camera
Yeah.
on it, because I want to see those views. So far, at least the video that we're getting from SpaceX, to me, looks like the ship is under control. It's not spinning. It's keeping a pretty good.
People in the comments say it looks like it's spinning, but
Well, I'll watch it a little bit
yeah.
more.
Let's see.
I have seen some of the RCSs firing, so hopefully they're trying to arrest that. Yeah. So far,
Pretty great that they've proven reflight of a booster,
yes.
and pretty quickly.
Well, it had all 33 engines all the way up, and it looked like it had all 13 for the boost back, and the shutdowns appeared to be nominal. I did not see if they, tried a landing burn or whatever, but we did know that they were going to stop the engines pretty high up. That'll be one of those things for us. It'll be great to look back at the video. Let's see, what did we miss?
Yeah.
But, the viewers are a big part of this too. So if the viewers are seeing something or have some questions or want us to talk about something, let us know. It's
People are saying, Matthew says, so when it comes back to Earth, will they recover it? Can it be used for another launch? Which they are gonna recover this
they
ship.
hope that they can recover. I mean, it's got to go through the reentry and survive
right,
and have
right.
a good landing. But they do have assets out in the Indian Ocean that if it does survive and it's floating and it's in a stable position, that they would like to take it back to port. But it will
Probably
never-
not for use.
No.
Yeah, no.
Uh,
Why is that?
Well, partly because this is just a prototype, one of many. It's already an old design anyway. They're just trying to get data. There's no real point to try to reply it.
Similar with the booster.
Right. And second, I mean, throwing it in the water and bobbing in the water for however long it would take to get to Australia and look at it, it's just not really suitable for it. But I do hope that they get it because, like we talked before, there's just a lot of tests that you can do with the hardware that you can't do just by data or visual.
Yeah, right.
So far,
Tony says, I forgot that they're going to test
yeah.
deploying Starlink simulators for
Well,
the
you know
first
what?
time since we talked about it on 7 and 8.
That's actually, I just thought about that. Some people were saying that they thought it was spinning. I was mentioning that they had some RCS thrusters on. They'd actually reoriented the ship so that now it is tail first towards the planet. That may be because of the deployment of the Starlinks. We have never seen this before. So this orientation is definitely new.
I mean, I don't want to speak too soon, but it's looking good so far.
And so we're about 4 minutes away from when we should see them attempting to do the Starlink deployments.
Cool.
But they're not real Starlinks, but they're the same size and mass. And if they can prove this, they not only, I mean, there's several things that they can prove that they can do the PEZ dispenser, they can have the door open, they can send out the satellites, and if they can do all that, then this is one of the, I don't know, maybe not primary mission, but important mission for Starship to be able to deploy lots of Starlink.
Yeah. And thank you, David, for the super chat. Sorry, I missed that through all of the chaos.
It's been exciting. Yes. The launch it was weird because normally we get like a rolling and increasing crescendo of but it was like nothing and then all of a sudden full.
Jump scare.
Yeah.
Dude, that was so crazy. Oh, that was nuts. Like literally just come down here for
It's a
the.
nice view inside the payload bay. And you see some stuff floating around. I guess that would be the zero-G indicator. We can see those Starlink simulators on that PEZ dispenser getting ready to hopefully be deployed. And one thing that we saw in an earlier when they mission where they attempted to open the door is there was still some residual pressure inside and it affected the door's operation. I'm wondering if they learned from that, they redesigned the door so that they don't have a problem with the atmosphere that's left trying to get out the door and jamming it as it opens up. So, maybe they have some pressure valves that they've installed or they can have access to help mitigate that. But really great views from SpaceX about those Starlink dummies. Now, I believe that there are 8 of them on this particular flight. So they come out in groups of 2. So we should see basically 4 groups of 2 coming out. And I'm kind of curious to see what method they use to separate them. Because with Falcon 9s, they do a spin. And through that differential radius of the spin, they naturally will separate. I wonder if they're going to try that with this or if there's going to be some other mechanism. But yeah, we're about a minute and a half away from that demo.
Wow. This is pretty crazy.
It is.
Third time. Yeah. Seems to be a charm.
So far, so good.
Actually. So Charles says, why use dummy Starlinks when the real thing would be bonus deployments? Most of the cost is a launch.
Well, I think just prudence. They always on their first something they put up a dummy or they put up a mass simulator or they put up something.
But also it's suborbital.
Yeah, and that is true. That's a very
Yeah.
good point. This flight is already planned to be suborbital anyway.
So where would they go?
So maybe
these are gonna burn up.
Yes, that is actually probably the primary list. Very good.
Yeah. I know, I forgot about that too, and I was like, wait.
No, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking all the technical reasons, and you're like, duh, it's because it's going to come right back to the atmosphere.
Because we had a previous stream where we were talking about this, and I didn't realize that, and someone was like, bro, it's suborbital.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I retained that.
Well, hopefully, I mean, if they commit to an orbital one, next flight or the next flight after that, whatever, they may just go ahead and put actual satellites on. Because if they can start, even in a prototype stage, put satellites up, Starlinks for SpaceX, they can get those V3s up there, which have a lot more capabilities and power. So yeah, we are very close. We should be less than a minute.
Now,
And I'm kind of curious how this works because they obviously have to open the door first. So I want to see how that works. And then I'm kind of curious to see how this mechanism that they have works in space, throwing out these satellites. And we've seen renders for years, and it'll be kind of cool to compare the two.
yeah. Uh-oh. Deployment abort, door failure.
Oh, okay.
Door. No door.
Okay, well, that
Door failure. Didn't open all the way.
answers that question we were talking about before, where they had the residual pressure and it affected the door. Maybe they didn't completely complete that design, so. Yeah.
Well, okay, we have other things to figure out though. Shield.
Well, that's kind of a bummer. I wanted to see them fly out there. I wanted to see them
Wait,
out.
so Parker says this is not going good. Failed booster and failed door. The booster part was
booster-
planned.
As far as I know, the booster was fine, unless you're saying that it did something it wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
And I don't know about that.
Which thank you for the super chat, Bimmer Geezer. Thanks for joining us. And yes, quite the evening. It has been really pretty great so far. I'm actually didn't think they'd go today, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, and not only did they go, but they've gone farther than they have before.
It's pretty, yeah, we needed this. We really needed
Yeah.
this.
Well, the team that worked on the engines and the fuel lines and the harmonics and everything, hopefully they got really great data because now they've got it in flight too, and I hope that they are very pleased with what they did. Now we got deployment door issues that maybe every flight is a learning
experience.
yeah.
Learning opportunity.
So that'll be there. And what I don't know is because I can't get all the information. Did the door partially open, not open at all? And did they get it closed? And will that affect the reentry or not?
Yeah. All we are seeing is that the door wouldn't open. Which kind of stinks.
Yeah. Everything that I'm hearing and from other people here around where we are doing the live stream, we have not heard anything about the booster doing anything it wasn't supposed to or planned to do.
Okay. So people just maybe don't know.
They don't
I
understand.
think a lot of people thought they were going to catch it.
No.
Right. But like even the guy that I ran into at the
Right.
charger, he's like, I brought the whole family to see the cat. And I'm like, I am so sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
Yeah. Well, they getting the dummy Starlinks deployed was a milestone, and the door, the PEZ dispenser, that's something that they really need. So they're not going to hit that particular milestone, but
So
As-
that
as-
more.
the most important one, the one that Elon kind of stressed with Tim earlier today, was heat shield.
Which how far away were we? What?
The heat shield will start seeing reentry around the 45 minute point.
And we are 21 minutes into flight.
Yeah, so the next big thing is at about 38 minutes where we see they do that deorbit burn for a second or two using one of the center engines. By the way, although we have seen that before, it was all on the V1 Starships. So this is the first V2 that's done a deorbit burn light. So this is another test on those harmonics
Right.
and the engines to see how that works out.
So far, it's survived.
So far,
And thank you, Fordman Mark, for the super chat. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. It's so far been a great launch.
so Starship, we should start seeing plasma building up about the 48 minute point.
Okay.
And so we have a good ways to go. About 10 minutes before that, 9 minutes before that is where we should see that deorbit burn.
I want to hear that sound again.
Which one?
The launch.
Well, I think I got it
Yeah.
on my camera. Well,
Did
hopefully
Did you stop the recording already?
I have not.
You have not?
Well, I stopped the recording, but that's
Okay.
done. But I haven't watched it yet.
Uh-huh.
That's one of those, it's almost like an Easter egg thing, is after all this is done, you go back to your footage and you see, what did you catch?
I know. I'm wondering if I should. I don't know. Well, I guess people are still watching. It's always a balance because if I end the stream, then I can access the sound, but your sound's probably way better.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's on a memory card, so
Yeah.
it'll take a little
Yeah.
longer than just doing it on the phone.
Yeah.
But if it's good, it'll be out tonight, and I will put it out on X. I'll send it to you, and you can put it out. And if it caught what we heard, that's gonna be
It was
dramatic.
Scary.
They're trying to box.
It was very jarring.
Well, again, so far, I think I would say that this is a pretty successful mission so far.
Yeah.
I think they got what they needed from the booster. I am curious to find out if the hot stage ring block-off panels did what they wanted it to do as far as put the booster in the right trajectory.
Oh, do they have a big pause right now
Uh,
on the stream? I hear music. Are they having like a little intermission or something?
Probably. I think you're seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll turn it down.
No, you're good. No, I'm wondering if I should. What I should do here. Looks like Sandy Monroe's down here for his
Yeah.
first SpaceX launch. Great day to pick, honestly.
Yeah, I think, because of, hopefully we get more into these flights where there's more and more mission profiles, the mission lasts longer. I mean, when we go to orbit, we're gonna have a ship that's gonna be in orbit, at least several orbits before it can come back and be caught. So we will get to a point very soon where these launches and the missions are going to take hours, better part of a day, or even more than a day. So, and that's a good thing because we're moving away from this prototype of, hey, launch and it went boom, or it launched and got caught, we're over. That's not the way it's going to go. And Ellie and I had talked about this before about in the future, how do you do live streams for this? How will we do it? And do you keep it going for 20 hours straight, or you come back to the highlights, or how is that going to work? Yeah. So I mean, but that's something that's coming.
Yeah.
And there's another issue that I've thought about. I've talked to a whole bunch of people out here at Starbase too. Is when they do a launch or when they do a catch, they evacuate the area like they did today, and that includes the production facility. But in the future, when we launch and then the ship goes on for a half day, multiple orbit thing, or a couple of days, whatever, they need to bring the people back so they can go to work. Do they bring them back and then move them back out? They're going to have to figure that cadence out. And as they continue to launch more and more, it's going to become more and more of a challenge for them. And we saw their live stream today was basically in the office section of the Star Factory, looking right out at the launch site, and that's only 2.5 miles away. So if they're there, then could they keep the workers there? Yes.
I can't even imagine being that
Yeah,
close.
I'm sure they were testing out the beams and the supports of that building today.
That's crazy. Yeah, I wonder, because Raptor Roost is closer than here.
Raptor Roost is about 4 miles, so about a mile closer than this.
I mean, this was
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy loud.
Yeah. Well, another thing to think about, Starbase is a new city, means that it's going to have residents, which means that they're all living there.
Mm.
So how do they handle launches?
I was very impressed that these windows,
Oh yeah.
they were just
Yeah.
taking so much. Did you look?
I did not, but I saw it before when we were up at Margaritaville. There's
Oh my God.
the other hotel that's sort of 90 degrees away from it, and when the sun was coming up and it was shaking, the entire building was like glitter because of all the windows
Oh
shaking.
my gosh, dude, next time I just need a camera on that because it was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, what do your viewers think? Are they happy with what they've seen so far, or are they concerned about anything right now?
They say, I am still watching.
Okay.
So that's
Well, thank you. I appreciate
I'm
that.
still watching. Yeah, let's see. Silent Owl Scribe says, give this a 7 out of 10 so far. A lot to be pleased about.
Well,
Why not a 10 out of 10? Oh, it's probably from the award.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, we still have we have more than half of the flight still ahead of us, and it's arguably the most important one. When Elon talked to Tim today, about half of his speech was about the tiles and what they wanted to do with them. different kinds of tiles that they're testing, and some of the tiles that are missing on purpose. And you know, they need to know all of this for the future designs of the ships, especially the ones that are going to be caught, because you can't have heat tiles along the sides where the chopsticks are going to slide and catch it. So if you can't have them there, what can you have that would survive not only reentry and make the ship strong, but also be able to survive a catch? And that's part of what they're testing today. And you know, it is a difficult problem. Space Shuttle had tiles, but they also had a lot of issues with them, and it took a lot of refurbishment. But tiles are a way of having that rapid reuse, because in theory, they can survive and be reused right away. They're not like an ablative material that you have to replace either after every flight or perhaps after a couple of flights.
Which I remember, I think it was during either 7 or 8, I shared, Elon was talking on Joe Rogan about what you're talking about, you know, heat shield and how this has never really been done before. Let me see if I can find that. It'd be interesting to.
It's not just making a heat shield that can come back and survive on Earth. It's a heat shield that can survive going to other planets like Mars.
Right.
And Mars has a different atmosphere, which means it has different molecules, you know, different gases, and they react differently, and they can react with the tiles. They have to build something that can survive both the atmosphere of Earth and, in this case, the atmosphere of Mars under very different conditions. We got his talk with Joe Rogan.
Well, I had the clip a while ago, but it might take a second here to find it. Thought it would be interesting to play.
You know, while you're finding that, another interesting thing about the heat shield tiles is they have kind of like we call it the bakery where they make them. And right now, they next to the Star Factory on kind of the backside, they still have it's like a tent. It's a sprung structure, kind of a metal supported tent-like thing, and that's where they're working. But they're finishing up work inside the Star Factory of relocating various parts of the construction process away from where they're going to move it inside. And then hopefully soon they'll be able to have it all on the inside of the Star Factory and get rid of those sprung structures. And you know, the sprung structures kind of are the way Starbase here began. That's what they had for their structures for a long time.
The tents. I'm sure the people that work here are very glad to get out of that.
Yes, or I mean, they had to have portable air conditioning and heating units. They had to have all these generators to power because they didn't have enough power out here, and they weren't exactly probably as good as insulated as a real building. And yeah, and probably get a lot of dust and other stuff in there. So they had to work on that. So. You know, and ironically, that's one of the reasons why I think you and I keep telling people that they need to come out here as soon as possible, because as they build out new facilities that make it better for the workers, it acts as kind of a wall for us.
Let's see if I can't find this in a minute.
Well, he said
Then I'll ditch it.
back first. And now it just pitched forward pretty abruptly. And
I'm finding
they
it.
removed them.
Oh wait, maybe it is here.
So we're hearing that they may be having some controllability issues with the ship. I don't know what exactly that means at this point in time. And I'm not really seeing much of the stream at the moment.
They removed the attitude, but the speed and altitude is still there.
Okay. So they may be having some controllability issues. Yeah.
It's still streaming
Yeah, it's still streaming.
from the.
Okay.
But they took the attitude.
Well, it's hard to say for sure, so I can't tell with what I'm seeing. You can see that there, it almost,
Telenko says Starship attitude control has been lost for
Yeah.
SpaceX.
okay. A leak in the fuel system, okay. So this means that we won't really get any of the data for the tiles or anything like that. It will re-enter, but it's going to be in a relatively uncontrolled way along that path. But more importantly, that brings up the question: if they're having a leak in the fuel system, is that related to the other fuel system related problems that they had on the last two flights? And this is total conjecture. I'm not saying that that's it. It just makes me wonder if they're having a fuel leak issue, if that's what it is. Whatever it is, it seems to be causing them to have controllability issues. And we're at 33 minutes, so we would not have been at the point where they would have done the relight. It's still 5 more minutes from now, according to the original timeline.
Thank you for another super chat, Bimmer Keyser. Joe Gwen needs to send you her phone number so you can ask her about the things you don't know.
I would like to. That would be great.
You know some of her friends. So
I do. Yeah.
it wouldn't be that hard to
Yeah.
pull off. I would love to interview Gwen Shotwell, but alas, I have tried. And I do not think she likes interviews.
Yeah, she's very
That makes
judicious with
sense.
this.
That's
Yeah.
my sense.
But
Wow, this is a pretty crazy video.
yeah, it's kind of almost 60 psychedelic.
Looks like Starship has entered a wormhole. That looks
Kind of,
like
yeah.
solar hell right now. Is the ship vertical?
It's hard to say because they got the attitude display off.
Sad face.
It's I'm thinking because of the altitude, 156 kilometers, that's significantly above the Kármán line, that what we're seeing is maybe fuel vapors or something from the ship venting out. That would be my guess. And we're also getting close to the terminus where we should start seeing the sun rising. So we may be seeing some illumination from the sun, maybe partially through the atmosphere, changing the color and then reflecting off of the clouds. Again, that's a guess, but we're seeing obviously a very pinkish kind of hue to it. And so if I'm right, what we should see is this getting brighter and brighter as long as we can get the view. Now, you know, what is interesting also is that we still have these views. So Starlink is still providing them despite potentially the ship, you know, flipping out, you know, and losing control.
People are sharing. I don't think Mars 2026 is happening, which
Well, we'll have to find out what they say. But it is very valid, and it is a true thing that each time we don't get the result that we want, then we need to spend more time to fix whatever that was, and that's eating into that time.
Yep.
And again, this is just me. This is my own opinion, or not opinion, but just my thoughts. And I'm not saying that this is what they would do, but you know, in the past, when I've led a lot of people, we're in a big project and we start having some issues along the way. One of the things that you can do to try to alleviate some of that pressure and be able to focus on what you need to do is to look at your timelines and see if there's anything that you are forcing on the team that's unrealistic that you have control over, and timelines is it. So they could look at extending the timeline, but because of the orbital dynamics, now we're looking at a 26-month slip. So that would put it into 26, now into 28. So 28, 29. So, you know, I don't know if they would go that route, but that's sort of an option.
Clouds moving.
There's no planes coming.
wow, still pretty incredible video.
Yeah, what we were just talking about off camera is that the flaps appear to be moving, and I don't know why that would be the case. They're currently at about 140 kilometers. If the telemetry is correct, they're so high up, the flaps would have basically no authority for moving the ship. So I don't know if they're trying to get extra data while they can.
Might as well.
Um,
Mozzie says, I'm surprised the ship is still transmitting.
yeah, like we said, with the Starlink, this is quite impressive.
I'm glad they're not cutting the feed like some other
Right,
companies
exactly,
might have done
exactly.
or might not have showed us in the first place.
So I don't know, I mean, I think it would be asking way too much for the flaps to try to get it to be in a controllability position so that they could do a reentry.
Never say never.
Yeah, it's quite high. It's starting to lose altitude relatively quickly. I think it's still on the free return trajectory. I don't think it's necessarily atmospheric drag right now, but for each kilometer that they get lower, you get a little bit more of that. And typically, we will probably start seeing some plasma buildup if we keep getting the visuals somewhere around maybe 105, 110 kilometers, and then they'll start getting much more prominent after that. I'm not too sure what they can do. I don't know how bad the fuel leak is in the sense that is it something that they could mitigate somewhere else, or if it's so bad that they've lost ullage pressure, which is what they use for the RCS, maybe that would prevent them from being able to reorient it.
What do you think about this reaction from TJ Cooney, another space YouTuber? Beyond booster reuse and making it to SECO, it's hard to find a way to say this flight was a success, as none of the on-orbit and re-entry goals will be met. What a bummer, but hopefully the flight drought won't be as long as the one we just had.
I think in the middle of the flight, it's kind of hard to draw hard conclusions. I would agree that they didn't meet all the milestones, and as we talked before, Elon said that heat shield was the primary goal for this. I just saw Marcus House posted, can they use the flaps to control the ship? Right now, assuming that they don't have ullage, they don't have RCS, they don't have much else to choose from, so maybe they're attempting it. And if they do, I think it would be a miracle. But we shall see.
Yeah.
We are, before they were going to do a 1 second or so deorbit burn, and even though it's very short, it would have been enough to change the trajectory a little bit. Based on that, in about 7 minutes, it would have started its reentry. So we're getting really close. It's 118 kilometers, so probably in another 8 kilometers or so, we'll start seeing plasma.
Is that your cord? Can I
Yeah.
plug in?
Sure.
Or for my computer, I gotta go get it. Because my computer's gonna die. No. You're fine. Just the outlet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, stand by. Gonna leave my mic there.
While she's doing that, we can just look at the SpaceX feeds together. We got a nice view of one of the flaps. We can see that the motion of the clouds are quite a bit faster. So we're getting closer and closer to the atmosphere. And yeah, I don't know. I wonder if Marcus House has got, I mean, it's interesting. He's talking about the flaps and can they use that to control it? I don't know. But if they can, this would be miraculous. Let's see, slight chance of atmosphere. Yeah. And some people are saying slight chance the atmosphere will straighten it out. I think it's a very hard ask at this point in time. And some other people are saying, here comes the pain. Well, we'll see. But yeah, if it's not oriented and stable the way they need it, the ship will not survive. And it looks like we're really starting to get a lot of vapors, a lot of atmospheric interaction now. We're right around that altitude where I thought that we would start seeing plasma. And I think that's what we're seeing with some of the displays. And without the orientation, it's really hard to know which direction the ship may be facing. I see some shots looking through the engine bay, and you can see plasma around the cells. And it also looks like we're starting to pick up intermittent signal, which makes sense based on the fact that the ship is control. But yeah, looking through that engine bay, we can definitely see how that plasma is going. You can also see the direction. It's kind of going across the base of the engine bay, which kind of suggests that the ship is sort of sliding through the atmosphere with the end of the ship down. And the direction of motion is where the you can see that with how the plasma is.
This is too heavy. This isn't gonna work.
What's that?
It's too heavy, so it's not gonna work to charge it.
You mean it's too heavy
This,
on that?
yeah.
You sure?
Oh, it's not working. Is it? It's making a cracker noise.
Okay.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah. My guess is that we're getting pretty close to the point we're going to start losing signal, and I don't think the ship will survive too much longer than this. But yeah, we're getting some of that intermittent signal from the ship. It looks like they may have lost the feed now. Oh, well. Well, you know, the good news is this is still most likely along the path that they have cleared with the FAA. So at least it's within that clear zone. So there should not be anything underneath it for being hit. And it should be far enough on the flight that it should be getting pretty close to past Africa, I would think. But I'm not very sure.
It was a bummer.
Yeah.
It's like, we're so excited that it survived, but
Well, it just shows you, you know, they say rockets are hard
it
and
makes us hard.
they are. Okay, well, it sounds like they do have some degree of telemetry. So we'll see. Let's see. Just saw a message from SpaceX. It sounds like they said that all the propellant is off the ship. But what exactly that means for the reentry, I don't know. I can see that they got their mission control up, and Dan and Jesse are talking about it. But yeah, I was really hoping for a much more complete flight.
Yeah. And it was looking so good. Well,
I don't know. I wonder. It's probably not the case, but they had a problem with the door opening. I wonder if that in any way affected the rest of the ship. Like they're still trying to put through some telemetry. It looks like it's spinning to me, at least with that little bit of telemetry or the imagery that we got.
And it's gone. Telemetry's still there. It's back.
It looks like the flap was getting roasted. You see it burning on the edge,
oh jeez.
the ends. Yeah, you can see how the plume is moving around. And it looks like to me chunks flying off of the ship. And with that bright yellow, that maybe steel that's melting. 46.
I think Elon will still talk at 9.
That's no, you can see the flap melting quite a bit. I think that's an aft flap, and that would be near where the engine bay is. Hmm. Yeah. I think this flap's gonna have a hard time coming back like the one we saw in, what was it, 31? Where it was partially burnt through, but it still made it all the way
That
down.
was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing is I think it's gonna be so far off its trajectory coming back that the assets that they have out in the Indian Ocean probably won't be able to image it either.
They kind of stopped at 59.
And it looks like 59 kilometers, the telemetry is stopped, so most likely either the ship perished or maybe the flight termination system went off. I don't know.
Well, how soon do you think until the next one?
I think once again, this is going to require an investigation not only from the FAA standpoint, but also SpaceX as well, to find out what is going on. And again, this is speculation just on my part. This does not mean that I'm saying that this is what it is, but if they had another fuel line issue, they'll have to find, is it related in any way? And if it was, they'll have to go back to the drawing board. If it wasn't, it was something completely different, then they had to figure out what was the profile, what was the flight regime that caused that to happen. But it is kind of weird that it happened about when it did. This is again conjecture on my part, but it could have been when they were starting to do engine chill for the light. And if that's the case, maybe that's when the leak began.
Well, it kind of looks like mission controls cleared out there, almost.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people. Huh. Hey.
Well, I don't know if they have anything that they can track. Now, they still have a ship that's parts of the ship still flying. So they need to manage that. And then they're going to have to do the coordination with the FAA and the other agencies that will be covering this flight to go out and find out did it land anywhere that was habited, or did it cause damage, or can it recover anything, or what?
What do you think about this idea that V2 is cursed and they should just move to V3 of Starship?
I would just say it more this way: is they went from V1 to V2. When they went to V2, they started encountering issues that they did not have on V1. So something has changed. And the question is what has changed in that? And we know that the fuel system changed a lot in the ship. And that may or may not be related to all of these various issues. And that would be a way to maybe start with trying to do the analysis to figure out where the root cause is and work your way from there. But once again, we haven't really been able to find out, did the aerodynamics of the change of the flaps do anything, and did it achieve what they wanted? And we still don't have any details on how the heat shield is functioning. And those were like big parts of this test.
Yeah, NASA spaceflight points out fair play to SpaceX for continuing to show the ship while they still had comms with it. Most companies would have ended the stream by now.
Right.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Ooh, Starship re-entry viewed from Africa.
Okay. It looks like we're starting to see some pictures.
That's cool. Which I will be doing a recap video,
Yeah.
don't you worry. But
Well, once again, I would just say that the incredible ability of Starlink to be able to give us views like we saw all the way through, something like that, is some amazing technology.
what do you think about this? Earlier ships held together with hope flew better than these upgraded ships.
Yeah. Well,
Trent says the flight made it its most important milestone. It got past SECO. No other orbital or reentry objective was achieved by Starship. Booster 14 went RUD in an extreme angle of attack maneuver. Progress.
is that for sure that the extreme angle of attack caused the RUD? I don't know. I'm asking. And Trent, where did you get that information from? Because I honestly don't know. We've been kind of busy trying to do the live stream here.
And thank you, Pete, for the super chat. Thanks, Ellie and Joe. Great stream today. I was really worried that it was going to scrub, honestly. So
Yeah. Well,
I'm glad it went. Pretty incredible sound. So I will release that tonight.
hopefully, I got a pretty good capture of that launch. I will say that the sound from the launch was shocking because it went from basically nothing to full on.
Jess makes a great point. It's called a test flight for a reason.
And I agree with that. I still think that from the standpoint of the objective that SpaceX has, they really would prefer to be farther along than they are.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
A positive way of looking at that is that they are finding out all the various different ways that Starship may need improvement.
Trying to see if Elon shared anything about his talk. Still happening or not?
I don't know. On the one hand, I almost think that he should go ahead with it because if he doesn't, then people are going to, read into that and put all kinds of headlines. But on the other hand, but the other hand, if he goes forward,
Yeah.
he's got to change essentially the tone that he had envisioned.
Right, for sure.
So I don't know if you were him, how would you approach it?
I think I would go forward. At the top.
Kind of rally the troops. Hey,
Yeah.
this isn't the result that we wanted today, but we still have big plans. We're moving our way towards that. We got a lot.
Are they ending? Is that done?
Yeah, it looks like SpaceX has ended its live stream.
Okay, well, goodbye, SpaceX.
Yeah,
All right,
I
well.
blame it on Dan. He cut his beard.
I mean, hey, it was progress today. It wasn't exactly what we wanted, but
Yeah. Well, one of you viewers early on said he rated it 7 out of 10. I would now probably put it like 4 out of 10.
yeah,
Maybe.
fair. I mean, the sound was spectacular.
Yeah. Yeah. But we did get a sonic boom come back. We did hear the booster either hitting the ground or hitting the water or something because it was quite muffled, and then we heard another one later on. I would be curious to see if there's any information about what Ted said there.
Can we get a slow-mo of Ellie reacting to the boom?
Ah,
Yes. Yeah, we probably should wrap it up soon so I can start downloading stuff. But hey, I mean, thanks for joining us. Flight 9 finally happened.
yeah.
Finally, I feel like we've been talking about it for a while. There's been some back and forth. Not perfect, but
Well, odds bigger and better things.
yeah.
I think it is at least good that they got a reuse of the booster and they were able to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's huge. So I will be posting a fully edited video tonight. Also, if Elon gives a talk, we'll give a recap of that. So I'm gonna end the stream so I can get going on those things. But thank you everyone for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed our coverage.
Yep, and then tomorrow we're probably going to go out and
Yes.
do a reaction, and by that time we'll have our thoughts together.
So we'll be live at Starbase tomorrow. Unsure of the time yet, but we should have great coverage because Starlink now works pretty well out there. And we have a Starlink Mini, so we can go on the mudflats, our favorite place to be. Thank you, Vincent, for the super chat. And thank you for all of the thank yous. Wow. Appreciate everyone who's watching. And, it's always a great trip down here.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for having me on. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.